All right, guys, good morning. We are here for the Vibe Project live, we'll call it a meetup. And Miles is going to start his presentation. So if you can't be here with us, you're with us on a recording. So we're going to get started. Here we go.
Should I wait for Myra to come back or just launch right? Giddy up. Okay, I like that. So today I'm going to talk about multidimensionality. Did you lock the door, Myra? Because they may run for the door after I start this.
He went for it.
So what I refer to our reality is the official line of consciousness. In other words, we have a set cultural patterns that we look at our reality through that have served us well up till now, but I don't think they serve us well going forward because we are so much more than what the official line of consciousness tells us we are in this reality. So I'm going to go through a couple pages of premises about this reality so I can use that as a launching pad to talk about multidimensionality, which is what we are, multidimensional. So everything in this reality is an illusion. It's just a picture, a projection of who we are, of our energy in framework 2, which is eternal. In other words, we're eternal. We have an energetic presence in framework 2. As this reality is created over and over again, countless times each second.
Can you define framework 2 for us, Miles?
Framework 2 is our mind or non-physical, however you want to think of it. Our non-physical and our mind are pretty much synonymous. So that's where our energetic presence resides, and it's eternal. And nothing can destroy who we are or what anything is in framework 2, in non-physical, because all energy is eternal. So as the picture gets projected into this reality, it's an exquisitely accurate reflection of who we are vibrationally. So we have beliefs. Beliefs create feelings. Feelings are a vibration, and that's what the universe responds to. So all that is composed of consciousness units. Those consciousness units yearn for expression. And as we create emotional feeling pathways, those consciousness units follow that vibrational pathway into physical reality and create what we see in our lives, every bit of it. Now, the world that we see is self-contained. It's a bubble. It goes all the way back to the time of Plato. Plato understood, Socrates understood, that what we see in our world is just an illusion. The way he referred to it was, it's like you're in a cave and there's a fire and you're looking at the wall, and what you see are the shadows that the fire creates behind you in your world. So that's the way this world is. The energy constantly flows through us according to our law of attraction, our vibration. Now, this energy is neither good nor bad. It's just neutral. So the meaning that anything that we see in our life has is the meaning that we give it. And if we see it as good, then it's good, and if we see it as bad, it's bad. Now this is the interesting thing. It doesn't matter how we see it, the universe is going to send us an endless stream of confirmation of whatever it is we believe. So if we believe it's bad, we're going to get a continuous stream of confirmation from the universe that it is bad. And if we stop and pivot and make a decision that it's good, then we're going to get a continuous stream of information telling us, confirming that what we see is good. Now, all of this exists on a grid, a matrix. So each of us has our own bubble, and we exist in our own bubble. And the purpose of this is so that we can see in our bubble exactly who we are. We're never anything but who we are. In other words, everything that's in our bubble is there because it loves us unconditionally and has agreed to follow our script. Every part of this reality is here because it loves us unconditionally and has agreed to follow our script. So we never have to wonder about what we see in our world. What we see in our world is exactly what we are creating. It's exactly who we are vibrationally. Now that doesn't mean it's who we are. It means that's what we believe we are. So that's what this reality is calling to us about. As we live our lives and we encounter, there's two ways to approach it. If you encounter things that make you uncomfortable, then that's a call to you to take a look at your beliefs. Say, what would I have to believe in order to feel this way? It's a call to you to look at those beliefs and see how they're limiting you in getting to what you want. The other way, which I highly prefer, is to follow your excitement. If you follow your excitement, you will expand just as rapidly in your all that isness as you would if you pursued your expansion through dealing with your problems. And the reason is simple. When you follow your excitement, you're going to constantly expand, but this is the way you want to go. But the only way you can get to where you want to go is by expanding. And you will find that through that expansion, naturally, like breathing in and out, you will become the person that easily handles what was a challenging problem before. So, following your excitement is the shortcut. Following your excitement is the secret. Now, the people that are in our life, in fact, everything that's in our life, every particle that's in this reality, every picture of energy that's in this reality is also here because it loves us unconditionally. So, Myra, Clay, they have their own bubble. And there's no overlap between my bubble and theirs. Everything, every person that's here is all that is. Everything that's here is all that is, but every person that's here is all that is. That means they're infinite. So they have both their own bubble, where there's no overlap, so you always know that what you see in your life is you creating your world, and you can trust it. And simultaneously, because you're all that is, because you're infinite, you take a small part of of the infinity of that you are, and reflect it into my reality, showing me back to me. So that means that every person that's in your life, you're probably in their life helping them as well. It's a giant cooperative effort. But you can see when All That Is created this, her insight was so breathtaking because this makes it a safe universe and a world of absolute well-being. The only boogeymen in our lives are the ones that we're creating, because everything in our life is created by us. Now, as if this wasn't deep enough, The only thing that we are is what we are when we close our eyes. We're not any more than what we are inside ourselves. Because everything out here is an illusion. So we go from duality, in other words, apartness, and only being what we are, to this reality where the energy flows through us and is projected out onto the walls of our bubble. So literally, every last thing that we see in our life is a reflection of us. Every person, every rock, stone, tree, dog, doesn't matter. It's all a reflection of who we are. So you can see we've gone from duality in one giant leap to oneness, because everything in our reality is a reflection of us. But let's be clear, it's not us, because there's no time. Time is simultaneous. Everything has its own existence, independent, with free will. It just makes a momentary, instantaneous stop in our reality to participate with us and reflect us back to us. Now, our thoughts, we're taught, we believe, most of us, we have them and they fall off the edge of a cliff. Where did they go? We don't know where they came from. We don't know where they go. So we have a vibration. The vibration is composed of who we are based on our beliefs. Our emotions open up vibrational pathways, and the universe sends us an endless stream of thoughts that tell us about who we are. Our thoughts are telling us, they're not us, but they're telling us about who we are vibrationally in terms of our beliefs. But then after we have the thought, we've actually created it. And that thought goes out to its own existence with free will. And it also operates according to the law of attraction. Like attracts like. So it goes out to other thoughts. Now these thoughts form energetic structures called energy gestalts.
Gestalt?
Yeah, Gestalts. It's a German word meaning conglomeration.
No, meaning a Gestalt is it is somebody's body.
It might be a body could be a conglomeration.
Body.
So
But it's a
the
body, yeah.
thoughts go out and associate with other like thoughts, and they create an energetic structure that then becomes a pillar in our reality. So let me give you some examples. The thought of freedom, the thought of love, the thought of kindness, the thought of angels. Each of these is a massive energetic gestalt that we can tap into.
Can I add something to this?
Yeah, please.
So in Gestalt psychology, the idea is the sum of the whole is greater than the sum of the individual parts. So the idea, us together, it's synergy. The idea is synergy. So each one of us together individually, each of us individually are strong, but as we come together, it becomes much bigger. And it's much bigger than the individual parts. It's more powerful. It's sort of an exponential growth, if you will.
It's like group meditation is deeper than just individually.
Yeah,
right?
good example.
Benjamin Franklin said we should all hang together or we'll certainly hang separately.
I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it created this country.
Right.
Because, we hung together.
'Cause it
But
was a
if we
big-
hadn't, we would have surely hung separately.
Well, to that point, it's like, so you had one person who had the idea of freedom, and they came together, and before you know it, that energy gestalt was created, that we wanted to create this independent nation based on a declaration. So you see what happened. So it's pretty awesome.
And let's just pursue that for a minute because it's a really good example. So once people start moving in that direction together, they're actively contributing to and creating a psychological structure. I'm calling it energy gestalt in framework 2 in non-physical that everybody can tap into. It's quite amazing. So once you get in emotional alignment with it, you start to open up to see things in a deeper way. And you can see this, it happens in virtually every area. The financial system, the medical system, it doesn't matter. Going green, perfect example. So it frequently happens with scientists. Once they start opening up a field and going in that direction, then they explode in terms of research, paperwork, results. And conversely, if you're out there doing research in one area where there's only 2 or 3 or 4 of you publishing, it just doesn't have nearly the vigor that it would have if 100 people were out there investigating an area and publishing. It just reinforces itself. So this is the way energy builds on itself to create a wave. And I think it would almost be fair to say that our country was like a wave. And they talked about at some point the destiny of the country, and the destiny of the country to go all the way from the Atlantic to the Pacific. And I'm trying to remember what they called it, if they called it a divine destiny or something like that. But it was big, it was in the newspapers, it was palpable, and people believed it, and they got in covered wagons and moved west. So, now, our reality pulses in and out of existence countless times, each second, literally, for all intents and purposes, infinite. But in order to create the illusion of physical reality, you don't have to have many pulses. When you go into a movie theater and you agree to suspend your disbelief, 24 frames a second convinces you, you see the picture up there, it looks real. The lights are out, you can sort of sink into the picture and go with the flow. But what I'm talking about here are 60 billion, trillion times a second, it's pulsing in and out of reality. That's simply Planck's constant from quantum mechanics. So, if you and your reality are pulsing in and out, let's just be wild, let's say 1,000,000 times a second, you still have a trillion other realities that you can be participating in simultaneously. And since there's no time, that is actually the way it's going. So when I say that you have your own reality in your own bubble, and you also participate in Clay's and Myra's and mine, that is very easily done because there is so much of who you are. Now, I want to talk a little bit about physicality and the physical world. So, this physical world is delicious and it's intoxicating and it's quite addictive. And we love being a part of it, sinking into it. But the problem with that is that it gives us one focus, and that focus is further built on that our consciousness is attached to our body. But that's just not the way it is. Our consciousness is eternal. In fact, our consciousness is not even who we are. Our consciousness is just the clothes that we put on to come into this physical reality and function. So, when we're coming into this reality, this is one small part of a continuum where there's an infinite number of continuums. So, we'll call this physical reality. And to our right and to our left are more timelines of physical reality. So all that is an energetic presence that creates completeness. So every probable reality gets experienced. So every time that you have a thought, and now we're going to come to our multidimensionality, every time you have a thought of something else, in the next instant, all that is will create another you, just as real as the you that you're sitting here with, that goes out and explores that other probability. And if you had 10 thoughts, it would create 10 of you in an instant that goes out and fully explores all those probabilities. And those yous are accessible to you. You can make a decision to put your consciousness in that place and explore, well, what would my life have been like if I did this or did that? Because as from all that is perspective, you did do this, you did do that, you did it all. Now, those alternate timelines can collapse back into the one that you're living, but they can also go on to their own complete existence. So we have a level here we call physical reality. And next to it are all these alternate realities that are being fully explored. It's like a wave. So we think of ourselves as one teeny little thing. We think of ourselves as one teeny little consciousness living in this little world. And we're not. Every instant, we are creating massively in exploring this physical reality. And those parts are accessible to us. And not only that, but this level of reality has a certain degree of physicality, a degree of, hardness, or a degree of crystallization, good way to put it. So, but there are ones that are less physical and ones that are more physical, ones that are harder and ones that are softer. And each one of those levels contain the same thing, a wide range of expression of creation that is a result of your thoughts. So, the bottom line to this is there is no such thing as fiction. With every thought you create. And those thoughts go out and take part in energy gestalts. So, we come to a point now where if we wake up and we're aware of the fact that we're creating massively every instant, we can begin to understand that when we turn our focus in a direction that's negative, it's easy to follow that because the universe, the consciousness units are going to support us endlessly in whatever it is we want to create. The only thing that can stop you from creating anything is your beliefs. In this reality, only one thing rules, your beliefs. You change your beliefs, you remove the energetic blocks so that whatever it is that you want can flow through, and that's what your inner spirit is working with you on. Your inner spirit doesn't have training, lessons, an agenda. You are all that is in physical reality, so there is no agenda on the part of your inner spirit for you to do something or even anything. It's all determined by you and what you observe in this physical reality. So as you become aware and you become awake and you make decisions to focus your energy by setting your intentions and making decisions, all the energy of the universe comes into alignment. Now, in the dimensionality of all that is, every point of the universe is the center. And that was discovered by a couple of physicists that were working on background radiation, and no matter where they did their research, they discovered that every point was the center. And it turns out that, at least in a metaphysical context, that's absolutely right. So each instant when the world is recreated, all the energy of the universe is aligned with us. All of it. We are the center of the universe. So where we put our focus and where we put our attention is what aligns the energy of the universe to create in this reality. So when you start to grasp these principles, you begin to get a sense of how breathtakingly powerful you are. So as you set your intentions for what you want, and you're still and you're quiet, you can come into alignment with inner guidance that'll tell you where you need to go in order to create the exact reality that you want. Now, what you can do, so let's talk about how this can be practically useful for you. So we understand being positive. We understand being focused. Now, scientists like Thomas Edison would go to sleep, always with a pencil and a pad of paper next to him, and he would get answers to how do you create an electrical system? Something very pragmatic. And as soon as he woke up, he would take his pencil and start drawing whatever invention it was that he was working on. Because he was accessing this plane of existence. And that's what we have available to us too. As we turn our focus in a direction and hold it there, the whole universe opens up to us. So, like a flower, as we sprinkle it with our spirit, with our attention, it bursts into bloom. And it will yield great treasures to us. That's why some people that, for instance, don't have a type of training that we would call standard, but follow their passion, still become extremely successful. And usually those people dramatically expand this reality because they're coming at it from a different perspective that tells people more than they knew before, and they're able to see things differently because they came to it originally with a different perspective. Usually a simpler perspective. Now, one of the tricks in using this information is not to make anything bad. Doesn't matter what it is, just don't make things bad. So for instance, we believe in organic food and supplements and eating natural, but it could be in any field, but I'm just picking food. Now, that's fine. The things that we believe are just permission slips to get results. The energy is neutral. So if we choose to believe it's good, then we're gonna feel good if we follow it and get good results. But if we choose to believe that it's bad, the same thing happens. We get bad results. So just to give you an example, if you believe that coffee's bad, or you believe that pesticides are bad, or if you believe that Coke is bad, I'm not saying you want to ingest any of these things, but I am saying don't make it bad. don't make it bad. I mean, there are people that in the world that eat things that we would never consider, and they do just fine. They live long and healthy lives. So know what you believe, and then when you see that you believe something, that's a horse that you can ride. It's a permission slip to get what you want as long as you follow your belief. And when you believe something, if you believe that it's important to eat organic, but you don't eat organic, you've just split your energy. Not a good thing. You want to try and live in integrity with who you are and what your beliefs are.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Sure.
You say don't make things bad. But if I don't make, let's stick to that, pesticides bad, then aren't they automatically good?
Well, let's say they're automatically neutral because they're just energy. But if all that is, we're going to see them and deal with them and put energy to them, then all that is would see them in a good way. So let's take pesticides. Without pesticides, we couldn't easily provide the amount of food that we need in this world to feed the world's population. Just like there's a movement out there for GMO and non-GMO. But if they hadn't discovered new strains of wheat that were far more productive than the old strains, then half the country of India would have starved to death.
So I want to interject something there, Miles. So you talked about energy gestalts and the official line of consciousness. So we've allowed ourselves, I think, in the collective to believe that we need the GMOs, we need the pesticides to produce that amount of wheat. But as we shift the consciousness, where we collectively believe we can produce all the food that we want without GMOs, without pesticides, then that'll start showing up in our realities. But right now, the official line of consciousness is we need those things.
Yeah, but
Can
now
I
go back
also-
to what she's talking about. Is it good or bad? How it reflects upon our
I have-
personalities and
Sorry, go ahead.
our personalities and attitude about that. So if we think the pesticides are bad and we are thinking of pesticides, then our mindset is that's bad, and so we have a negative energy towards that, right? If we see it like farmers see it as positive, it's good. So they have a positive attitude towards pesticides, and so it's just it starts building who you are,
Your beliefs.
your beliefs, right? And that belief is then your vibration of these different things. So what you're saying is look at it in a negative or in a neutral. It's not good or bad. It's just what it is. I just choose not to eat the foods that are pesticides because I don't want it to affect my body. But it's
But
neither good nor
You
bad.
just said it's bad.
No,
I just
Yes.
said I just choose not to eat that. I
But
choose
that's-
not to eat bricks either.
But that's a belief. I have.
And bricks
Can
aren't
I
bad.
say
I have
mine
a
real quick?
problem
Because I
with-
think this kind of ties in the fact that we're human and that we have this body that's delicate, and we have a knowledge that you don't put your hand on the stove. So we're not saying it's bad to put your hand on the stove, but we don't put our hand on the stove. I think we can view a chemical that could impact our bodies as something we choose not to do because we know there will be an effect, just like putting your hand on the stove. So I don't walk around thinking stoves are so bad because they can hurt me. So I'm not carrying that vibration. I can choose to me, I don't even think about pesticides. So for me, it's no impact on my daily vibration. I love how you said farmer sees it as a positive thing. So it's not affecting his vibration either.
And that's true with everything. I mean, we're looking at ISIS, for example.
That's
ISIS.
a good one.
Well, here's the thing. You
Sure.
look at, we see them as bad. They're the evil people in the world, but they see themselves in a whole different light. This is their belief. They believe that keeping people down and, you know, the whole works and living their life their way is right, right? And we see it as bad. But if we look at it as a neutral, just neutral energy, we just choose not to live that way. We don't believe that people should be beheaded because they don't believe in their, right? But that's their way of living, right? And so, I mean, you can look at a lot of different things in the world, and we could see them as just vehemently horrible. And somebody else says, no, it isn't. This is a good way to live.
No, this is a wonderful, wonderful subject. So, one of the reasons not to believe something is bad is because as soon as we believe something is bad, we're sort of resisting it. Mm-hmm. And since we're all
And
that
negative
is,
vibe comes out.
yeah, and since we're all that is, we start sending it energy because we can't not send it energy. It's anything that has our attention, our focus, gets energy from us and gets bigger. So the reason not to make something bad is so that it can just flow through us. Now,
Can I?
sure.
I have a hard time with this neutral energy thing. I really believe that the world is changed or moved or expands or whatever by positive or negative energy. Neutral energy, if it exists, doesn't move anything, doesn't change anything.
But
Right.
it's your perception. It's your perception that this is bad is what moves that to be
I
negative.
know, but
It's
if you have
his
like 10
perception.
people in the room and
Yeah.
7 of them believe killing people is good, then that energy goes out, and only 3 people believe it's not good, then that's
Then we're gonna be
untoward. So to me, if there is neutral energy, it doesn't move anything. So
And you
then
know-
we want to move forward. Shouldn't we strive to say this is good for me or this is bad for me? And I'm not saying for the world. I specifically said for me.
You couldn't be more right.
Thank you. Nobody's ever said that to me.
So, and that's the reason this world functions the way it does, because all energy is inherently neutral. And that way, we know that whatever we see in our life is a reflection of us. So if we see good things, it's because we believe they're good. And if we see bad things, it's because we believe they're bad. And you went right to the heart of the matter. What do we choose to believe? Because if we're going to focus on the good, if we're going to believe the good, if we're going to believe the positive, now let's dovetail this into our multidimensionality. When you leave a subject and you put yourself in a good space when you leave that subject, when you come back to that subject, you will always come back to the same feeling place. It's the supercomputer that we are inside. But now those thoughts have gone out to their own existence and they come back to us with connections to this larger energy gestalt that fully support what we want to do and where we want to go. So the secret to creating heaven on earth is, where are you putting your focus? Are you going to put your focus on positive energy? Because if you do, you're going to create in multiple dimensions simultaneously, like a wave that's going to move those dimensions and those entities or souls or personalities forward, as well as our own. So this ability to work with our mind and hold a focus and put it where we want it to be is unspeakably powerful. And I'm not saying that, in fact, I want to be clear. There's nothing exists in a vacuum. So the energy itself is neutral, but when we make it either good or bad, the only way we can make it good or bad is if simultaneously it is the opposite. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist. It has no contrast. So when we see really good stuff, there's really bad stuff. When we see really bad stuff, there's really good stuff. They come together. They're on the same energetic stick. The difference between us and, for instance, all that is knows their energy is only going one place, to love. to the good end of the stick. So that's an example I think is powerful for us to follow. Now in 1989, I had this dream, a powerful dream. I'm riding at the head of an army, a huge army of horses. And the horses had, I don't know how to describe it, but they had like energetic presences on them. It's not, they weren't like leprechauns, but symbolically, you can think of that. And as we were riding, I was astounded because people were peeling off in ones, twos, hundreds, threes, and it didn't matter. It just kept riding, and they just kept peeling off. And the dream was saying, look, the universe is always working for you. Each one of these energetic presences on these horses were the multidimensionality I'm talking about. The consciousness of a tree, of a rock, of a car, of a person, of a group. There's group consciousness, the consciousness like Indians know. There's a consciousness of bears, a consciousness of buffalo, a consciousness of nature, Mother Earth and Gaia. All these consciousnesses, instant by instant, completely align with us and work for us as we relax and breathe and open up to become awake and aware of who we are, of our incredible power and energy and ability to move and change this reality. Now, there's a wonderful lady that lived in Tibet, and was invited by the Tibetan monks to the university to teach them how to work with their demons. So when you create enough negative energy, it shows up in our reality as storms, as earthquakes, but it can also show up as horrible political experiences. But let's be clear, it's just our energy and our creation. And as you learn how to work with that energy by focusing on the positive, well, this is what I want to, what's the next leader, what are the, based on what I've learned now, what are the attributes of the next leader of this country that I want to see exhibited? Do I want the person that's there to change in a certain way? Or do I want a new and different leader? But the point is to focus on what you want and to see what you want. Now, that book is brilliant, no doubt about it. See an island, see it being positive, see what you want on that island. And the more time that you spend there, the bigger the creation will become. And it's sort of like an addiction. For people that are addicted, they're losing themselves in an area that they believe will bring them some semblance of happiness. Alcohol, money, sex, whatever it might be, gambling, will bring them some modicum of happiness, which their beliefs tell them is the only thing that's available to them. I can't succeed in any other area of my life, so even if it destroys me, I'm going to go for the happiness that I could get here. But you can use the same model to create great things. An electrical system. You can put your focus in that area and enjoy, follow your excitement and say, well, I'm going to create Facebook. I'm going to create an operating system for computers. I'm going to create the power of databases. I'm going to create a new party, a new political party. I'm going to create a new way to farm, a new way to eat food, a new way to interact in the world. They're the same thing. They can lead, they're just used in opposite ways, but that focus, that joy, that power is a way that, and let's be honest, we don't even know where our sentences are going to end when we start them. We don't. We don't tell a single cell in our body what to do. 10 trillion physical cells and 90 trillion bacteria all working together. Trillions. And it all works together to create the magnificence of who we are. And when we turn our focus to what it is that we want, we have the same ability to impact reality that we have with our body. And our body is no different than physical reality. So let's take a minute and talk about our body, because it's a really good example of multidimensionality. Our body is directly, every cell of our body is directly connected to all that is. But we're not, are we? I don't think so. I mean, I don't see it exhibited in people's lives. So there are a few people in this world who are connected to their inner spirit and bring love into the world, and we can see it unambiguously. But most of us struggle. I know I certainly struggle, and I struggle a lot as I deal with my dreams every day, for instance. Because the dreams are constantly unfolding a part of me that I didn't see before, where I'm limiting myself. And all I have to do is many times, all I have to do is change my perception of who I am. For instance, the dream I had the other day was about not letting other people help me. And when I shared that with Reba, she said, that's a family trait. Nobody in your family will let anybody help them. And if you get sick, you want to be alone. And if somebody does something nice for you, write it down, because you're going to have to do more for them than they did for you, so that you won't be beholden to them at some point in the future. And you're taking away their happiness because they love you and they want to help you, and you're stealing that from them. So, and I went, oh my God. Well, I'm only 71, so, you know.
You got a long time.
Yeah,
You got a lot
yeah.
to learn, right? That's like someone giving you a gift and you say, no, I'm sorry, I can't accept that.
Oh, you know, and I have a wonderful, wonderful grandson who's autistic. And if you give him a gift that he doesn't want, he'll hand it right back to you. I love that. You know? I mean, he just literally hands it right back to you. So much integrity, authenticity, and honesty. It's breathtaking. So, as we begin to grasp the power of our mind, that we are the creator, and that by where we choose to turn our focus, we're going to make a massive impact. Because if we can give up our old official line of consciousness perception and realize that the thoughts we have, the images we have, the intuitions, the nuances that we experience in our life, we can have a huge impact. Now, let me go back to the body. The body is like the world is constantly talking to us, because it's all a picture. That means it's all a symbol. So that is constantly telling us who and what we are. The same thing applies to our body. But if we start paying attention to our thoughts and dealing with those when we have them, then we're not going to get to a place where it actually has to move into our body in order to get our attention. That's what happens. It starts on the other side of the world and it moves closer and closer, and we're still not getting the message, and then the next thing you know, it's showing up in your body and you're still not getting the message, and the next thing you know, it's gone from a problem to something that's recurring to something that's persistent, and it's all just trying to get our attention and tell us, because your body, like the quote-unquote evil people in your life, is willing to sacrifice itself, because it's naturally healthy, willing to sacrifice itself in order for us to get the message, so that we can remove the limitations that we have and get what it is that we want in life. So everything, turns out, is on our side, including our body.
Miles, let's take a break. If you guys don't mind.
Yeah.
Because we've been going, and I want to actually end this, and I have to use the bathroom. So guys,
Hand me that recorder, would you? And I'll take a break on that too.
guys, we're going to end the session for now. Thanks for joining us, and we will take any comments and questions. Miles will be happy to answer those if you post them in the comments section. But for now, this was the first test session of doing these deep dives, and as you may have noticed, this was and is quite a deep dive. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you soon. Be well.